Buenas tardes. Muchas gracias para su atención y su tiempo, pero mi español es muy mal. So now I switch to English, so my apologies. Thank you for your time. I'm here today to, as the slide says, help you think differently. I think you all know what needs to be done relative to the digital world today and are facing the challenges every day with trying to keep up with a customer. I spend a lot of time reading, talking, listening, watching, and coming from that, I'm observing some things happening in the world that I'm not sure everybody understands. I also, before I get started, wanted to thank Sophia and Josefina, my partners, for taking the rambling thoughts of an old gringo and turning them into the presentation you're about to see. So thank you. We're going to talk about thinking differently about stores, about real estate, about inventory, about products, about math, one of my favorite topics, and ultimately about the retail organization. What do we see happening in stores? We're seeing stores changing from being sales rooms, sales floors, and backstocks to being showrooms. Frankly, if you're a regular shopper, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty bored when I walk into stores today. The store experience that we see has been around for 40, 50 years and hasn't really changed a lot. And it's boring. And it's boring to the point where customers are failing to show up in malls and they're failing to show up in stores. And the retailers that are beginning to understand this are changing their store footprint to be more like a showroom. And so for this example, Nordstrom is testing in California and in the Pacific Northwest a store that carries no inventory. It's just a showroom. If you like what you see, then you can order it online and they will send it to you. Jack Ma, everybody know who Jack Ma is? Anybody know who Jack Ma is? Boy, that light's a pain. So Jack Ma was the chairman of Alibaba. I think he is about to be the ex-chairman of Alibaba. Jack Ma says, commerce as we know it is dead. That anymore the customer is interested in something called commerce plus entertainment. And Jack Ma's Alibaba runs Singles Day, both in China and in Southeast Asia, which happened to be the largest sales day anywhere on the planet when they run them. And they run it as a show, as a concert. So they have all these artists doing music, and at the same time, they're selling merchandise. Whoops, I screwed up. Sorry, hang on a minute. So there's a Canadian retailer called Roots that took Jack Ma at his word, and last Christmas ran a physical and digital fashion show. So some of these models are people, some of these models are avatars. They selected only their best customers and the press to come to this hotel for this show, where you could buy the product on your mobile phone only. They sold out of the product that night. And then they went on to have the best Christmas season they'd ever had in their entire history. And so it's a great small example of how blending commerce and entertainment together drives sales. And I think is a good point beyond the Singles Day that in the future our customers expect commerce and entertainment. It's a way to keep the shopping experience from being boring. The other thing that's going to change, is changing in the stores, is what I like to call digital store. And digital store is where the customer no longer buys what the store owns only. They buy whatever the store, whatever the enterprise has in its inventory anywhere in the world via virtual, via mobile, via desktop. And there's two use cases. The first use case is 30-some% of our customers that walk in the store walk out not finding what they wanted. And 10 to 12% of our inventory at any one time is out of stock. Yet we own the inventory somewhere in the company. And so when we teach our associates and give them the tools to sell what the customer is looking for, even though the store doesn't own it, we increase store sales. We recapture those lost out-of-stock sales. And then the second thing is many stores don't carry the entire assortment that the company carries, either because of the size of the store or the location. And again, teaching and incenting the salespeople to sell product that they don't physically own, to do a virtual sale, produces big results. We've worked with clients to promote both of these programs, and depending upon the type of product, you can add an additional 5 to 10 points of store sales, which is not a small number. It typically is as large as the entire digital sales were by themselves. We have to think differently about stores. And for many chains that have a website and a mobile site, the customer walking into the store has more information than the associate, which makes for a bad experience. And so how do we provide transparency to both sides relative to inventory, product information, price, promotions, et cetera? The companies that do that win, gain market share. You already all know about stores as local fulfillment centers. You do a lot of that here in South America. But the one thing that you haven't done yet that I see coming pretty quickly is reallocating the space within the store. So as I walk through stores in Chile, the backstocks are jammed full because they've got packages waiting either from Click and Collect or BOPIS for the customer to come receive them. And yet the sales floors are relatively empty because the traffic has dropped and customers are converting to digital. And so what we see is as retailers are remodeling their stores, they're shrinking the sales floor space, expanding the back space, and turning certain stores into part showroom, sales floor, part fulfillment center. Thinking differently about real estate. So you have to manage your locations as a portfolio. Some stores are going to be more, or you're going to keep the stores in its location because it's a great fulfillment location. Maybe not so good for sales, but good for fulfillment. Other stores you're going to keep because they're in a great showroom location. Just about anybody running retail is going to have fewer stores, and the stores you're going to keep are either because they're great showrooms, like Costanera Center potentially, or great fulfillment centers. And you need to understand both those. The second thing is you need to manage space as an asset. So most retailers manage the space that they have on the sales floor, only selling the product they own. More and more, though, we're seeing some retailers opening up to leasing that space to suppliers, competitors, to other companies. So Best Buy, for example, who was one of my clients years ago, realized that they had a problem. They had built these big stores full of CDs, full of DVDs, and all of a sudden, nobody was buying CDs and DVDs. So they had all this empty space. So the first thing they said is, okay, what other categories could we put in this store? So they put in musical instruments. Musical instruments are not a regular purchase like CDs and DVDs, so that experiment was not so good. They then got into appliances. And they were very fortunate because about the time they got into appliances was about the time Sears sort of forgot about the appliance business. And so they did gain some business that way. But then some smart person said, you know what? We have Microsoft. We sell Microsoft product. We sell Samsung product. We sell Apple product. We sell Microsoft product. They're all complaining about the service we offer in selling their products and the fact that we don't have enough expertise. How about if we lease them the space and let them run the shops? We'll run the point of sale. We'll handle the freight flow coming in. But they run the sales floor. And so that's what Best Buy's done. A big portion of Best Buy's real estate is actually paid for by these other companies. Companies are happy. Best Buy's happy. JCPenney, a company that's struggling, did one thing right. I would argue the one reason why JCPenney hasn't gone bankrupt yet, they may still, and the reason Sears did, is that JCPenney cut a deal with Sephora. And in the United States, Sephora is the best beauty care and fragrance business in the U.S. drives regular traffic, has loyal shopper base, and doesn't have so many stores that in many markets the JCPenney is the best place to go for Sephora. It was a good decision. Macy's leases space to the Finish Line, apparel, footwear. And so I suggest to you that this strategy, this trend will increase. Leveraging other people's real estate. So I was reading today that Kroger and Walgreens entered into a pilot test relationship. Now in the US, Kroger is a big grocery store chain that has lots of pharmacies. Walgreens Boots is one of the largest pharmacy retailers in the world that also sells groceries. Pretty tough competitors. So what Kroger and Walgreens decided to do is Kroger puts its private label brands into 13 Walgreens stores as their grocery. Why did they do that? Well, they did that because both Walgreens and Kroger needed more points of distribution. Kroger has 2,200 grocery stores. That's not enough because Walgreens has 8,000, 9,000 pharmacies. In many places in the United States, you can go to one of 5 different Walgreens within 3 miles of your house or 3 miles of where you work. And so Kroger's understanding that points of distribution is important whether I own the real estate or somebody else owns the real estate. Walgreens doesn't have a good private label program. They need the charisma that comes from the Kroger private label program, which is one of the strongest brand programs in the U.S. Let me back up. One other thing I find really interesting is there was an analyst that did a report in the last couple of weeks for brands, for P&G, for Lever Brothers, for a variety of the brands. And it was saying, brands, you need to go on Amazon, let Amazon be your digital channel, but watch out. Because Amazon will disintermediate you. If they see a hot product and they think they can do it better, then that's what they'll do. And I thought to myself, that's not new. That's been happening for years in the stores, where P&G would put its product in the stores and companies like Kroger would say, that's a great product, but I could do the same thing for less. So it's not new. I think we're getting confused with the fact that just because Amazon was digital only, that the world has changed. And so I think the consumer goods companies are smart to go on Amazon, but I also think they have to constantly be innovating their product. Otherwise, they're out of business anyways, whether it's the stores that'll put them out of business or Amazon. Thinking differently about inventory. So when we get to a world that any customer can buy any product from anywhere in your enterprise, that suggests that the notion of safety stock changes dramatically. Today, if we walk through most retailers' businesses, they own the same inventory in the CD and in the store. And that there's no need for that, because if the stores are doing fulfillment, including ship from store to the customer, then you don't need to have every SKU in every location. And now you can start to think about what makes sense relative to what SKUs belong in what locations. And retailers like Target, who have started to figure this out, have determined they can reduce their total inventory by 20% and not disappoint the customers. So retailers that figure out that the inventory models have changed are going to start beating the ones that don't, because they won't need as much capital. Talked about that. Retail, for the most part, unless you're an apparel brand, a fashion brand that owns your own products, have basically survived based on selling what I call other people's products, OPP. And that was good in the days when convenience was the primary reason why customers went to a store, proximity of the store to the customer. But in this new world that we have of digital and last mile delivery, convenience is no longer how close I am. The other thing that retailers survived on was a lack of transparency. It was only the most diligent people who went from store to store to store and had brilliant memories could tell you which store had the lowest price on what product. But today with the internet, and with the tools that we have, anybody can tell what the lowest price is at any time, and typically can buy the lowest price item via digital. So now, if you want to sell other people's products, if that's your primary business, then you have to be the lowest price leader. And more in the world, the lowest price leader is Alibaba, Amazon, Walmart. And so it's almost impossible for any of us to compete with their size. And the other thing that's critical is being able to sell, if you're going to sell other people's products, is to have the best and most varied service, which typically means a huge investment in logistics. And again, that bill's been paid by Amazon and Alibaba and Walmart, and it's difficult for the rest of us to equal. So only the biggest retailers can succeed in selling other people's products. So what does that mean? I think everybody else needs their own products. I'll give you some examples. So Walmart's doing a good job of taking on Amazon. And how are they doing that? So yesterday or the day before, what's today? Wednesday? On Monday, our holiday, but not holiday in the U.S., they bought a company called Bare Essentials. Anybody knows what Bare Essentials is? Yes? No? Yes? No? So Bare Essentials sells women's intimate apparel. They have 600 vendors, 110,000 SKUs. They are the dominant force in women's intimate apparel. And Walmart got two things by buying Bare Essentials. Number one, they got the best assortment in women's intimate apparel of anybody in the world, killing Amazon in that space. So now they also have unique products that they can put in their stores that nobody else can put in the store. And then secondly, and I think even more importantly, they got a whole set of customers that I'm willing to bet were not Walmart customers, and now can be. And if you look at Walmart's acquisition history in the last 2 years, you will see them buying these types of companies, both for the assortment, but even more important for the customers, and helping to change how customers think about Walmart, and creating, I think, a competitive moat to compete with Amazon and to beat everybody else. I'm actually today more worried about Walmart than I am about Amazon if I'm a retailer. So every retailer needs to have a private label program or a fashion program or whatever it is, product that is yours only. I'll give you the strangest announcement that I've heard in the last 2 months. So I spent a lot of time in Cincinnati with Kroger, which until Walmart came along was the United States' largest grocer. Kroger has a really good private label program. And they kind of got caught with their pants down, as we say in the U.S., when Amazon bought Whole Foods. In fact, just about everybody in grocery got caught with their pants down. So if you go on the Kroger website and you look at the investor relations section, which talks about all the things they're doing, they have launched more innovation projects, including the Walgreens one that they had announced last week, than just about anybody. And the craziest thing they did that got my attention and got me to thinking was Kroger is now selling its private label grocery products that they manufacture in the U.S. They are selling them in China. It's a good example of them selling on somebody else's real estate and them understanding that they're not in just the retail business, they're in the product business. And the more channels that they can get their products into, the better they're going to do. Thinking differently about math. I challenge any retailer to go look at the way they're doing commercial, the way they plan, the way they determine their assortment, the way they replenish, the way they flow product. And I would say 90% of those decisions are a human being based on experience and years in job making decisions. And I would also suggest to you that any retailer that doesn't change that from the human being making the decision to an algorithm making the decision is not going to be around. Because we as human beings, as smart as we think we are flawed in our decision making. We have too many biases. as an organic machine learning engine, we suck. And so retail has to very rapidly go from the spreadsheets and the old applications that they're using to something that's more current. And the retailers that get there the fastest will win. Frankly, that's one of the reasons why Amazon is beating a lot of people and why Alibaba is beating a lot of people. If you dig into how decisions are made in those companies, the everyday operational decisions, what products to carry, what DCs to put them in, what slot to put them in the DCs, it's all algorithms. It's not a human being. And then you have robotic process automation. Again, if you look at the back rooms, the back offices of most of our companies, there's a lot of people pushing a lot of paper. And now there are tools to automate that where the people can spend no time pushing paper and spend more time doing the things that people are the best at. Here's an example of a machine learning solution that a company that uses machine learning to automate product catalog descriptions and attributes. Walmart uses this company, and Walmart processes 3 million attributes an hour with this company, with no human beings. Prior to Walmart using this solution, they had 3,500 people over in India doing this manually. And then there's competitive intelligence services. How many of you are gathering data daily on your competitors relative to what inventory they're carrying, what assortments they have, what is the prices, what promotions they're running, and telling you how you stack up against them? And even better than that, how many of you are using this data and integrating it into your operational processes to helping you set your prices, make changes to assortments? Amazon does this, Alibaba does this, Walmart's doing this. In fact, it was funny, when Amazon bought Whole Foods, one of the first things they did was engage a competitive intelligence services company and said, I want you to tell me how my Whole Foods prices stack up against every other grocer in the U.S. And they did this before the deal closed. And the day the deal closed, Amazon announced a bunch of price changes that the people in the press said, I have no idea what Amazon's doing. They clearly don't understand the grocery industry, because they dropped some prices on some items 30 to 40%, and they raised prices on some other items 15 to 20%. And the press just skewered them. And an interesting thing happened. 3 months went by, and Amazon reported Whole Foods same-store sales. Now, same-store sales went up 25% that first 3 months. And you could argue that some of that was people's curiosity about the fact that Amazon had bought Whole Foods. I give you that. But when you look at the data on the items that Amazon changed the prices on the greatest, the sales lift on the ones that they reduced the prices was incredible. And the sales deterioration on the products they raised prices was negligible. And so when you look at the incremental margin that Amazon produced at Whole Foods using math, it was pretty incredible. Talked about that. You actually have some companies here in South America that are figuring out how to use both visual recognition and image processing to help combat crime in stores. They can see the day, and it makes us feel a little bit like China, but I think it's necessary because I used to run loss prevention for a retailer. But if you have a known shoplifter and you have their picture, you now have solutions that will tell you when that known shoplifter has just walked in your door. Then you have two options. You can ask them to leave, or you can go customer service them and ask them to spend money. So I'd suggest we need to start thinking differently about the retail organization. When the work is automated, the decisions are automated, we're going to need fewer people doing work and making human decisions. And that suggests to me fewer people means that we need fewer managers. And I would suggest to you that the model of commercial and stores and digital and logistics as separate functions does not make sense to the customer. Customer doesn't care. The retailers I work with, I spend more time getting the stores and digital people in the same room so we can solve problems for the customer. Getting the logistics and the digital people in the same room. Getting the commercial in the store. Commercials. These silos just don't work. So it's not going to surprise me if we're going to see some dramatic changes in retail organizations. Talked about that. Robots. Now this one's interesting to me. Because in markets where labor is high, labor cost is high, so think Europe, think North America. And in markets where space, real estate is very expensive, robots, I think, are going to end up being early adopters. You look at what Ocado is doing in the UK. What was the name of the company? There was a company yesterday that just announced a 6,000 square foot CD. Okay, I got to convert that to meters. 600 meters? 700 meters square foot CD. All robotic, not one human being in the CD other than to repair the robots. Now here in Chile, the cost of labor is less, so I don't see us automating quite as quickly, but I do see that day coming. This is Ocado on the right-hand side. This is for grocery. I would suggest to you that the first major grocery chain in South America that cuts a deal with Ocado wins the grocery war, along with Leader. In the U.S., Kroger just announced 2 months ago an exclusive deal with Ocado for several $100 million, where they're going to build 12 of these CDs throughout the U.S.
One of its Orchard Supply hardware stores, a chain acquired by the home improvement retailer last year.
Hello, I am Oshbot. What are you looking for today?
Besides greeting customers, the Oshbot can also answer questions.
I'll take you to the Plum 16-ounce flat contoured handle hammer.
In 2 languages. Initiate video conferencing when someone needs additional help.
Walmart announced last week that they have a 50-store pilot where they're using robots to clean the store floors. And they expect to roll that out chain-wide. They're seeing good success. And then both Home Depot and Lowe's are using the robots in their stores to detect issues with pricing, to detect out-of-stocks. Again, not an inexpensive solution. I don't expect it to be here next week, next year, but I do expect it to come as the price of the robotics comes down. I thank you. I know you've been here for a long day, and I believe I'm last. I want to open up to any questions you may have. And if you want to come up afterwards, please do.
Perdón. Si hay preguntas del público, por favor, alzar la mano y le pasamos el micrófono. Any questions? Okay.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel.